Hello, I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker, and helping you if you're scared of many things. So this is about Trump's submarine tweet, and I was just so astonished that I'd get anyone at all asking me about this. I never expected this, so I'll explain why it's totally meaningless. It's a complete nothing burger. There's nothing here to worry anyone at all, for even a moment. So this is as for instance, how Russia Matters put it. The US nuclear subs can be assumed to be rotating in their patrols in appropriate regions anyhow. That's the whole point. That's the whole silly thing about all this. So let's look. I've got a list of. I've got to refresh this page to see the. Just a second, yes. So let's look here, for instance. So this is since I was 6 years old when the United States and Russia first built their first nuclear subs. I was far too young for me to know at the time. And by the time I was a young teenager, they were already patrolling each other's shores continuously. By the time I was 15, the United States had 41 nuclear subs, far more than they have today. And at its height, Russia built 200 of them. And they were just constantly patrolling each other's shores. Of course they would. I mean, where else would they go? Where they go is very secret, but it's absolutely obvious that that's where they're going to go. And they're completely impossible to see. So the only time you know where they are is, first of all, if it's an exercise or something and they're sailing on the surface intentionally, or if they have to, it's called the right of innocent passage, which is if they go through a narrow strait, like into the Baltic Sea, would be only that's an unlikely one to do because for the modern subs that's a very small sea. But they do go sometimes into the Mediterranean, and if they do, they'd have to sail on the surface whenever they're within 12 nautical miles of any other state, and they raise their flag. But if they're further away than 12 nautical miles, they don't have to do anything. They just can be completely hidden. A modern nuclear sub is so silent it can't be detected, and so they can't be detected with sound recordings if it's more than a few kilometers away from land. And so, ever since I've been a young teenager, the US nuclear subs have been patrolling around the Arctic coast and everywhere in Russia and the Pacific coast of Russia. And the Russian nuclear subs have been doing the same in the United States. So what would be extraordinary would be if Trump was to say, I've ordered my nuclear subs to stop patrolling in the appropriate regions. What would be extraordinary. That would hit the headlines. But this shouldn't hit the headlines. It's totally meaningless. It just say I've got 9 or 10 at sea at any time. It used to be dozens at sea at any time at the height of the Cold War. And you see, this is a highly provocative statement of the former president. He's a former president. He makes these bizarre statements many times a year. And he has no access to nukes. And his words are completely ignored. So Trump knows very well that Medvedev said things like this since the war started. He has no access to nukes. The US subs are already in the appropriate regions, just because they always are anyhow. His words will have no consequences because Putin doesn't pay a blind bit of notice to what he says. And Putin hasn't responded to Trump's proposed sanctions anyway, and doesn't reply when asked about them, hasn't said anything about these nuclear subs. As Russia Matters puts it, where it is the dead hand which is what Medvedev bluffed about, that would not get activated until after a nuclear strike on Russia. So that's total irrelevance. And the US submarines can be presumed to be rotating their patrols in appropriate regions anyhow. And here's Evelyn Farkas, who's executive director of the McCain Institute and former senior Pentagon officer, saying it's really signaling it's not the beginning of some nuclear confrontation, and nobody reads it as such, and I wouldn't imagine the Russians do either. And Hans Christensen saying that the sub's always there all the time and don't need to move it into position. And as they said, Russia Matters said both the threat and the counter-threat appear to be symbolic. And this is about all that most of the sources that I read aren't commenting on it at all. The Institute of Study of War does a long thing, but it just describes, it doesn't comment on the things, it just elaborates on what Russia said, and it's not giving any comment on it. So that's probably not the best one for people to read, because it just takes it for granted that you know it's nonsense. They're not actually spelling it out to anyone. But most of the people I talk about, then they're not even. Most people I followed, military analysts, they're not even mentioning it. I went to my X stream, and people are talking about, for instance, Ukraine has hit some new oil refineries. It's hit a couple of oil refineries, and it's hit a store for the Shahid drones in their drone. That's what they're all talking about today. They're not talking about this tweet. They're not even slightest bit interested. So hopefully this can help put you in perspective and help you to understand this is of no consequence whatsoever. And I've got a separate thing here about this is what TASS say. They have US to impose anti-Russian sanctions even if they have no effect. So that is TASS, which is controlled by Putin, just denigrating and downplaying the sanctions. That's his usual response to something he can't do anything about. And Medvedev is just a paper tiger. So I've got this somewhere down here about Medvedev. Yeah, that's about the. Let's go back. I have to click here to go back to how Medvedev is a paper tiger. Somewhere I've got that here. Where is it? There we are. I've got an expanded version of that. So Medvedev is a paper tiger. He has been tweeting and posting bizarre nuclear threats many times a year since the war started. He has no agency, no access to nukes. Everyone knows that, which is why US presidents never respond. And he's also known for fondness for vodka, and this is a thing that this is a Ukrainians. This was May of 2023. Another example, and it just another example of his bizarre things, which never hit the mainstream news. But it was Politico. Not really. I mean, not as a big item. Just yet another of his tweets. And what hit the mainstream news was this rather colourful way that the Ukrainian officials responded to it, saying you can stop the drunken shit posting. So he has he's known for his fondness for vodka, and some of his tweets, because they're so incoherently written, and they sometimes the sentences just don't fit together to make any sense, then people hypothesize that he probably writes some of his tweets when he's drunk, because sometimes they're incoherent, they don't fit together much in the way that a drunk person's statements often don't quite cohere together and actually make sense. So Putin's not going to listen to Medvedev. He's just a person who tweets away bizarre nonsense, and Putin could easily stop it and just say stop doing that. He doesn't do that because it helps him with his own bluffs to have someone saying random and crazy nonsense all the time. But he's not going to listen to Medvedev. So anyway, so that's my first short video. I'll do a series of short videos about this.